Good evening, everybody. It's February 7, 2025, and I'm going to continue reading the Intel report. So this will be part 3 of the Targeted Individual Intel Report, T.I. Exfiltration and the Battle for the Heart of Humanity. Now, I was going to read this last night along with the DSM information, but I wasn't sure because I wasn't sure if this would be suppressed, but I'm going to read this because it's so important to part 2. So this is the role of Big Pharma and the psychiatric industry in enforcing the TCS, IDC, and CBC agenda. They've turned psychiatry into a tool of economic, social, and medical enslavement. And this is for educational purposes only. I'm reading from an online document. So, the overprescription of psychiatric drugs to suppress resistance. Big pharma profits from drugging whistleblowers and survivors with SSRIs, benzodiazepines, and neuroleptics. Psychiatric drugs create cognitive suppression, emotional numbness, learned helplessness, making it easier for the gang-stalking victims to be controlled. Children who question authority or exhibit critical thinking are immediately diagnosed with ADHD and placed on medication. That's right. The connection between psychiatric institutions and MK Ultra mind control. Many mental hospitals are fronts for intelligence agencies running unethical human experiments on psychological conditioning and neural manipulation. Forced hospitalizations are a key tactic used to neutralize whistleblowers, labeling them as mentally unfit while subjecting them to experimental treatments. The goal? Weaponized psychiatry to enslave the human mind, ensuring that no one can resist the TCS, IDC, CBC system. So how psychiatry, Big Pharma, and the media gaslight T.I.s into submission. One of the most insidious tactics of the control grid is the use of psychiatry, pharmaceutical drugs, and media propaganda to gaslight targeted individuals into submission. This strategy ensures that T.I.s are discredited, chemically subdued, socially isolated, making it impossible for them to fight back or expose the truth. Which is why I highly recommend you don't do any drugs, don't drink, give up your cigarettes, eat healthfully. These are just recommendations, just because it might work for me, it might not work for you. Psychiatry is a psychological warfare weapon. Big Pharma is a biochemical mind control operation. The media is a mass deception machine. T.I.s must resist, expose, and dismantle these systems, which is why I don't have a TV. And I don't smoke, drink, or do drugs. I don't even take an aspirin. The TCS, IDC, CBC weaponizes psychological warfare by using 1. Psychiatry to diagnose T.I.s as delusional or mentally unstable. Number 2, Big Pharma to drug T.I.s into submission with neurotoxic medications. These are neurotoxins. Number 3, the media propaganda to spread disinformation, frame T.I.s as conspiracy theorists, and normalize gang-stalking tactics. So here it is again. It's reversing the information. So they let the psychotics and the neurotics and the sociopaths, narcissists and stuff do whatever they want to do. And then they gaslight us, turn it around, and project it back onto us. By using these 3 pillars of control, the TCS, IDC, CBC silences, isolates, and destroys its enemies without firing a single shot. How to resist the psychiatry, big pharma, and mass media gaslighting machine. They rely on psychiatry, pharmaceutical drugs, and the media to neutralize T.I.s without direct violence. However, these tactics can be resisted. Understand how psychiatry is weaponized. Never voluntarily enter the mental health system. 2, reject psychiatric drugs unless absolutely necessary. They are designed to suppress and not heal. And again, this is for educational purposes only. They use holistic and decentralized healing methods. Meditation, fasting, and natural medicine work way better than big pharma. Counteract media gaslighting by using alternative platforms. Censorship-free networks are critical to exposing the truth. Educate others about gang stalking. Mass awareness is the key to destroying their psychological control grid. How psychiatry was designed to gaslight targeted individuals. The psychiatric industry is not about healing. It's about controlling human thought and punishing those who challenge the system. For T.I.s, psychiatry is a weapon used to discredit them, not help them. Weaponized psychiatric diagnoses to silence T.I.s. Delusional disorder. It's used to label T.I.s who report gang stalking, electronic harassment, and directed energy weapons as paranoid or schizophrenic. 2, paranoid personality disorder, given to anyone who questions government overreach, mass surveillance, or intelligence agency infiltration. Oh, you'll be labeled bipolar or borderline. It'll be used to dismiss emotional responses to real trauma, allowing abusers to frame their victims as unstable. Then, of course, there's oppositional defiant disorder, ODD. And this is a new diagnosis that criminalizes dissent by labeling resistance to authority as a mental disorder. Oh my goodness gracious. Forced psychiatric evaluations and institutionalization of whistleblowers. T.I.s who challenge the system are also often forced into psychiatric holds, 5150s in the United States, where they can be legally drugged, experimented on, and kept indefinitely. Intelligence agencies have long used psychiatry to imprison dissidents, as seen in the Soviet Union practice of declaring political enemies as quote-unquote mentally ill. I mean, look what they did to Julian Assange. Then there's schizo-trolling by gang-stalkers. They're the perpetrators that intentionally harass T.I.s to make them react, then use their emotional outbursts as quote-unquote evidence of mental instability. The goal? To make sure that T.I.s can never expose the truth because no one will believe them. Even though historically we've got damning evidence. Okay, so now how does big pharma drugs T.I.s into submission? The psychiatric industry, pharmaceutical corporations work together to ensure that T.I.s remain chemically enslaved. If psychiatry cannot gaslight T.I.s into silence, big pharma steps in to chemically lobotomize them. Oh, and guess who they did this to? That Princeton professor, John Nash. The book, The Beautiful Mind, was written about him, claiming that he was schizophrenic. He was not schizophrenic, boys and girls. He wasn't. He was a targeted person. He's the professor who, at a very young age, invented the hyper game theory. He came up with the hyper game theory. And then after that, he was so brilliant and stuff, they decided, Oh, he needs electric shock therapy. Yeah, because he was seeing groups of people all wearing red ties. What does that sound like? Sounds like gang stalking. So psychiatric drugs are chemical restraints. The SSRIs and antidepressants like Prozac, Zoloft, and Lexapro are designed to flatten emotional responses, making T.I.s less capable of fighting back. Then the benzodiazepines, Xanax, Ativan, and Klonopin, these, I'm telling you guys, these are like the worst. They need to get rid of these. Induce disassociation and compliance, making gang stalking victims too sedated to resist. And the Canadian professor, Jordan Peterson, he was taking them and he developed a horrible addiction, and he could not get off these things. He flew to another country to detox from this stuff. Then there's antipsychotics, Risperdal, Seroquel, and Abilify. You know those commercials where you see the butterflies flying around in the background, and then, you know, you've got the scrolling screen at the bottom in very small print, very like sing-songy text about all the negative side effects, including death. Oh boy. I don't know, guys. Please don't take this stuff. They cause severe neurological damage, sedation, and cognitive decline, ensuring that the T.I.s become incoherent, unemployable, and easier to institutionalize. The reason for the opioid and fentanyl epidemic. The TCS, IDC, CBC deliberately flooded the U.S. with opioids and fentanyl to create a docile, incapacitated population. I mean, they did the same thing like decades ago with heroin, right? Pharmaceutical companies like Purdue Pharma knowingly distributed addictive painkillers, while intelligence agencies like the CIA protected the global heroin trade. There you go. See, I knew it was coming. The more people that are addicted, the easier they are to control. And the more people on psychiatric meds, the easier it is to frame T.I.s as drug addicts. The goal? Ensure that T.I.s are chemically subdued, unable to think clearly, and permanently dependent on pharmaceutical control. And this is just for educational purposes only, and just it's speculative. How the media is used to gaslight T.I.s and normalize gang stalking. The mainstream media functions as a public relations arm of the TCS, IDC, CBC, ensuring that gang stalking remains hidden in plain sight while T.I.s are made to look insane. Yeah, I'm the one that looks insane for having a skinned, unalived animal stuffed in my mailbox. Right. Oh, yeah, and what about the poopynurse.com that throws poopy diapers and poopy doopy doos over my gate at 12:03 a.m.? Conspiracy theorist smear tactics. The term conspiracy theorist was invented by the CIA in the 1960s to discredit critics of the JFK assassination. The same playbook is now used against T.I.s who expose gang stalking, intelligence agency corruption, or mass surveillance. Conspiracy theory articles flood search engines to discredit whistleblowers before their claims gain any traction. And then, of course, there's Hollywood's role in normalizing gang stalking. Films and TV shows like, here you go, A Beautiful Mind, Black Mirror, and The Truman Show are designed to make gang stalking look like paranoia. Reality manipulation tactics such as gaslighting, voice-to-skull harassment, and electronic torture are framed as delusions in pop culture, reinforcing the psychiatric control grid. The same media conglomerates that promote gang-stalking propaganda are owned by the same banking cartels funding global mind control programs. Debunking psychological warfare. Fact-checking websites like Snopes, PolitiFact, and Media Matters are controlled opposition, ensuring that anyone who exposes gang-stalking is labeled a liar. Oh, and for the record, you know that online public FOIA request nonprofit called Muckrock? They won't even allow you to FOIA request anything relating to gang stalking or directed energy weapons. Yes, is that amazing? They claim to expose corruption, yet they censor what you can FOIA request. Search engine algorithms are rigged to ensure that legitimate testimonies of T.I.s are buried under articles labeling them as mentally ill. AI-driven disinformation bots flood online forums to disrupt real conversations about targeted harassment. The goal? To ensure that the general public ridicules and dismisses T.I.s before they can expose the system. Now there's religious death cults and their role in gang stalking. Religious. Okay. How Freemasonry, Vatican, Jesuits, Zionism, and satanic cults control the world's religions. Religion has long been a powerful weapon of mind control, mass manipulation, and population enslavement. The TCS IDC CBC, the Transnational Crime Syndicate, TCS's Transnational Crime Syndicate. The IDC is International Death Cult, and the CBC is Cabal of Banking Cartels. Does not practice true spirituality. It hijacks religious institutions to consolidate power, control narratives, and enforce obedience. Religion has been hijacked to enslave humanity. The real battle is for spiritual sovereignty. T.I.s must expose, resist, and dismantle the religious death cults. These groups do not work against each other. They work together using coordinated religious deception to create a psychological prison for the masses. The four major groups that have infiltrated and corrupted world religions include, number 1, Freemasonry, the occult hands controlling churches, courts, and governments. Number 2, Vatican Jesuits, the black nobility global mind control operation. Number 3, Zionism, political supremacy masquerading as religious destiny. Number 4, satanic cults, the hidden hand behind ritual abuse, the red stuff sacrifice, and psychological warfare. How to break free from the religious death cults. 1, recognize that modern religious institutions are hijacked. Seek spiritual truth outside of controlled organizations. Number 2, expose Freemasonic lodges, Jesuit networks, Zionist influence, and satanic cults for what they truly are. Understand that gang stalking is often connected to religious cults. Many perpetrators are members of these secret societies. Create decentralized, sovereign, spiritual communities that reject institutionalized religious programming. Destroy the psychological program that keeps people obedient to the TCS IDC CBC's religious deception. How Freemasonry hijacked Christianity, Islam, and politics. Freemasonry is not just a fraternal organization. It's the backbone of the deep state's control system. Freemasonry's hidden role in global power structures. Their most high-ranking politicians, judges, law enforcement officials, and intelligence agencies, they're all Freemasons. Freemasonry uses secrecy, blackmail, and esoteric rituals to control world governments. The world's major religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, have been infiltrated by Freemason posing as religious leaders. The G in Freemasonry, God or Great Deceiver? The G in the Masonic square and compass does not stand for God. It represents gnosis, the Luciferian belief in self-divinity. And the weird thing is, somebody told me that the G was government. I don't know. If anybody knows really what the G means, leave the comment down below. So here in this article, it says the G represents gnosis, the Luciferian belief in self-divinity. Masonic teachings claim that Lucifer is the true God and Jehovah, Yahweh, is the oppressor of mankind. So it's reverse, right? At the highest degrees, Freemasons are required to denounce the previous faith and pledge allegiance to the Luciferian hierarchy. Freemasonry's role in gang-stalking and the targeted individual program. This is the key, guys. Drum roll. Many gang-stalking networks are controlled by Freemasonic lodges using local law enforcement as their enforcers. And I've got 3 of them. 3. For the entire county. Right here. Right where I live. A couple miles away. Then you've got the Masonic police chiefs, judges, and politicians. They ensure that no gang-stalking cases are ever investigated. Like mine. 6 years. Almost 6 years. Not one has been investigated. Even with videos, photos, proof, evidence, nothing. It's called conspiracy against rights under the color of law, deprivation of rights under the color of law, and they're in violation of Title 18, Section 241 and 242. Freemasons operate on a death by 1,000 cuts strategy using street theater, cyber harassment, and financial sabotage to destroy T.I.s. And that's what's happening to me here. That's why I've said it before. Every time I see damage around, it's like, oh, it's the damn Freemasons. I know it is. I know it is. The goal? They use Freemasonry to secretly control all major power structures while presenting a false image of benevolence. They're all fakers. They're all fakers. The Vatican, Jesuits, and the black nobility, religious mind control. The Vatican is not the holy institution it pretends to be. It's the headquarters of a global crime syndicate that uses religion as a front for power, money laundering, human tea. The Jesuit order, the Vatican's secret intelligence agency, the Jesuits are the real power behind the Vatican, controlling both Catholic doctrine and global intelligence operations. They run the world's top universities, military-industrial think tanks, and financial institutions. The Jesuits were behind the creation of the Illuminati in 1776, which later merged with Freemasonry. The Black Pope, the shadow ruler of the Vatican. While most believe the Pope is the highest authority in the Vatican, the real power is the Black Pope, the Jesuit superior general. The Jesuits answer to no government, no king, no religious authority. They serve only their secret world order. The Black Pope's network includes top-ranking Freemasons, Zionist financiers, and high-level intelligence officials. Okay, let me see how we're going to work this. The Vatican, the PEDO network, and the satanic ritual abuse. The Vatican's global pedo ring, they're not scandals. They're part of an organized religious death cult. Satanic rituals, blood sacrifices, and traffic lights are integral to maintaining their power structure. The Vatican Bank is one of the world's largest money laundering operations, funding black ops, organized crime, and war profiteering. The goal? Use the Vatican as a global mind control center, enforcing obedience through religious programming, financial power, and blackmail. Then there's Zionism, the hijacking of Judaism for political supremacy. Zionism is not a religion. It's a political movement designed to create global supremacy for a select elite. The Rothschilds and the creation of Israel. The creation of Israel in 1948 was orchestrated by the Rothschild banking dynasty, but not for religious purposes. It was for geopolitical control. Zionism does not represent true Judaism. Many Jewish scholars have condemned it as a political tool that exploits religious faith. Zionist intelligence agencies, Mossad Unit 8200, are deeply involved in gang-stalking operations, cyber warfare, and global espionage. Then there's the Talmud supremacy doctrine and Goyim subjugation. Zionist leaders follow the Talmud's supremacist teachings, which state that non-Jews, Goyim, are to be enslaved or exterminated. The Noahide laws, signed into the U.S. law in 1991, legally allowed for the execution of non-Jews who reject Zionist rule. Freemasonry and Zionism are closely connected. Many high-ranking Masons also hold allegiance to the Zionist agenda. The goal? Establish a Zionist-controlled world government using financial control, intelligence operations, and religious deception. So we're going to end here. This is part 3 of the Targeted Individuals Intel Report, T.I.s Exfiltration, and the Battle for the Heart of Humanity. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there, and I will talk to you soon.